Hello everyone, I'm still here, I'm still alive. The only reason I haven't been uploading videos, sadly, has been because most of my videos were just, they contained outdated information and units because of the new patches that we've gotten over the past couple weeks. Now, some of them are kind of interesting, some of them I think are terrible ideas, but you know what, let's discuss them together, well, me discussing them. The first major thing is that when we look at, some of the air superiority fighters, you can now take two of these F-15C Eagles, you can take two of the Su-27 PUs, you can take two of the Rafales or Eurofighters. Insert, awesome air superiority fighter here, might as well be it. And that's not just two at Elite, you can take two at Recruit. And you can still take two cards, so you can have up to 4 F-15C Eagles in a deck now. Just using that for an example here. Honestly, I really do not like this change. I think there are a great deal of people out there who would agree with me that this just is a bad idea. I mean, why? I mean, like, one of the big things with Wargame was you always had to balance, would I take the, inferior Su-27S, for example, but I get two of them, or should I take two Su-27 PUs, because, well, they're really good, they have great missiles, they have great, firepower, I guess you could say. I mean, it was always a choice that you had to make in Wargame. There was no in-between with it. But the problem is now it's not a decision between, do I want to take two, inferior units, but two inferior units, or do I want to take one better unit? That was kind of the choice I always had to make. And sometimes, like, if I'm like, oh, I'm playing an armored deck, I need air superiority over the skies. So yeah, let's go ahead and, take two Su-27 PUs. It's worth the extra cost because, well, I'm going to need them to make sure my tanks don't get sniped and bombed out of existence. On the other hand, in most of my decks, I'd be like, well, I don't have a lot of points in air. What we should probably maximize the amount of bombers and variety of our strike craft that we can take instead of just taking the Su-27, instead of just taking, a bunch of air superiority fighters. For me, that choice is now gone, or has been severely limited. Because who in their right mind is going to take two Su-27Ss over two Su-27 PUs, ignoring veterancy for the moment? I mean, really? I mean, it takes away some of that choice in Wargame, and that, not that it takes away choice, but it, like, removes some decision-making, I guess you could say. And it's sort of, it's one of the things that makes Wargame so good was that choice. So that was kind of the huge change that we got, I feel like. Vehicles, huge changes for the, one of my favorite units, and that was the CEV. If you can't see it on the screen, the range went from 2450 to 1050. What the heck, you Jim? I'm sorry, I really liked this unit. I thought it was a great unit. I thought it was extremely powerful, and was a great addition for any Blue 4 deck, and it was really balanced considering that Red 4 kinda got the same thing. They also had some awesome anti-infantry units. So yeah, that's the CEV, now. The same goes for the Centurion Avery, which, let's pull that, let's see if we can't pull both of them up here. It's just, for me, it's just unthinkable. It's like, really? One of the great things about these, about this game was some of that balance. Now, if I wanted to, for example, show you where I feel like it's been inconsistent, it would be one thing if they nerfed kind of Blue 4 with Red 4, but it doesn't seem like they did, because we look at, say, the BMPT, or the BMP3 for that matter, you could look at either of them. The BMPT still has that 2450 meter range. And so, for me, I don't like that. I feel like now it's kind of, that anti-infantry department, where, like, I think Red 4 has some significant advantages, like with the BMPT, the Afghansky, this BTRT with, the AGS-17 and 7 frontal armor. I mean, Red 4 has got it made, in my opinion. And besides, almost every country has a napalm tank. It's all those things combined that make it just such a powerful, deck to use. It's like, really? You're going to keep this at 2450 and, the United States, the CEV, which was awesome, is going to get nerfed to non-existence. I mean, this was, like, such a good unit, and now it's been taken to the bottom. I mean, it's been taken to the bottom. I mean, I would dare say that the Ontos is better now. Because it's got a longer range, maintains 3 high explosive power, and fires twice as fast. Yeah. I don't know why I'm even saying that. But it's just part of, like, all these changes that they're making. And not to say that change is a bad thing, but things were okay for, at least I felt like, the patches before it. I didn't feel like I was, on Red 4, was being biased against it or anything. And some of the price remixing, I'm fine with some of that. And I think when, we look at it next, I think that the price changes were ultimately a good thing. But, like this? This was just, I don't feel like this was a necessary change to make. And besides, hardly anyone used the thing anyways. If anything, they should have been buffing it so more people used it. But now that's simply not the case. Simply not the case anymore. Tanks got a lot of, price changes. Particularly in, well, not really in either country, I guess. The best examples would be West Germany and the Soviet Union. For example, Leopard 2A5 spent 170 points, but 2A4 was dropped down 5 points. As was the Leopard 2A1, I believe. I think this thing used to be like 105 or somewhere in that neighborhood. And I think this used to be like 135. So they both were made a bit cheaper, which I think is great considering, like, if we look at some similarly priced Soviet tanks, we can see that the balance is, I would say, for the most part, pretty much maintained. This is, not a perfect example because it is a better tank, at least to the T-72B. Maybe they can nerf it a bit to make it a bit closer to its 135 point price tag, but I don't feel like this is a huge issue. So yeah, I mean, I just sometimes, there are things I feel like you change for good reason, and then there are things that I feel like were just, oh, what can we go in there and change? What are people complaining about? And they were complaining about it, but I feel like it was something that, you just kind of got to suck it up. The M1M and T-72B got reduced in price by 5 points and lost 1 availability. The T-72S was made exponentially cheaper. Now it's 125, I think, compared to 135, and they were made more numerous. So thank you. I feel like more people will use this tank now that it's a cheaper price. I'm not sure if they did much with infantry in this patch. I really don't feel like it. Yeah. One thing that I'm a bit worried about are these Corps Mariniers. And the reason for that is, if we compare it to the closest comparison on Red 4, being the Commandosi. Let's just take a look at the stats and just see which one, is better. And I hate doing this, because sometimes doing this cross comparison isn't exactly accurate, but here I think it's definitely warranted. They're both elite trained, 15-man strength, squads. Let's take a look at it. So the C7 compared to the AKS-74U is big difference. You get less accuracy on the move, but an extremely powerful static accuracy compared to much lower, a much lower static accuracy. Now, this is changed with veterancy, but I just feel like the C7 is a lot better than the AKS-74. Next, looking at their law, no contest here. I'd say the AT-4 is much better than the RPG-16, and that's where I kind of started to get worried, because one of the things that makes the AT-4 so good is the high rate of fire with the pretty good armor penetration. And it was always one of the balancing factors for the Commandosi. They were a very exceptional anti-infantry force, and they were decent against vehicles. I mean, the RPG-16 isn't bad. I mean, it has an 875-meter range, but the biggest issue is that low armor penetration, so it's not the best against enemy tanks. So I kind of feel like some of that balance is gone. And I'd say the RPK versus the Mini-Me is just kind of a toss-up. The RPK has better suppression and HE, and it's, better on the move. But in the end, I don't feel like that's going to really be the deciding factor between these guys. I feel like usually the deciding factor for infantry comes down to the assault rifles. And so I'm worried that these Corps Mariniers could become blatantly overpowered, and I've even heard that these things can kill Spetsnaz, and that, ooh boy, that could be a real issue, should that continue to happen. So I'm a bit worried. I hope that these guys will get, that some of this will get readjusted, but I don't feel like hopefully that won't become too much of an issue. Hopefully it won't. Meanwhile, if we were to compare, like, the Corps Mariniers to the Commando Marines, it's a big difference. Like, the Commando Marines are, I'd say that the Corps Mariniers are these guys are much better than the Commando Marines now, because the C7 is better than the SG-543 because they have a much higher rate of fire, and that's really going to be the deciding factor. You can maybe make a case for the suppression, but I'm not entirely sure how much that's really going to come into play. That's all going to depend on the veterancy of the unit, but like just raw stats, much higher rate of fire on the C7, which translates to more Commando Marines killed than Corps Mariniers killed, which usually doesn't help, any side other than the one who can drop more enemies the fastest. Well, anyways, I'm not too concerned about much. One other change. This one, maybe not to say it's disturbing to me, but the Bertino is now in the armored deck, as is the MSTA, and for the United States, the Paladin can now come in an armored deck. I'd assume that means that the AS-90, the AS-90 can come in an armored deck. And I kind of don't like this, because I'm worried that, it kind of encourages more artillery spam on the point of the armored player, and it really turns the armored decks into much more all-around decks. You could definitely say that this is a good thing, but I don't feel like it is. I mean, armored has to rely on the offense. It can't just play support, but now armored is becoming better in some ways than a support deck, in my mind anyways, because you get some of the best artillery in the game, which is great at sniping things. I mean, you also have access to a variety of mortars. You have the much better tanks than any support deck is going to have. I mean, this is the best tank that support can get, and it's pretty darn slow. Don't get me wrong, the Chieftain Mark 11 is a good tank, but it nevertheless is slow, and it's just not as good as, say, the Challenger series. So yeah, I'm a bit worried. If this is kind of the way Wargame's going to go, that doesn't mean that I'm going to quit playing Wargame. I love Wargame, and I'm probably still going to play it, but I'm just a bit worried that things have gone a bit too far. So I would, really like to see it kind of reverse to how things used to be. But yeah, I'd like to see things go back to how they were. Not like when Wargame first came out or anything, but to like a patch ago, you know, before they implemented all these changes. They definitely aren't my favorite. And that's coming from someone who plays both Blue 4 and Red 4. You know, I'm not like, I will only play as insert country name here. Or faction name. But yeah, so some of these trends worry me. I'm hoping that this doesn't become an issue. That's kind of some of the big patches that we got. Also, the KCT were made into 10-man squads. I think this is a good thing for the Netherlands. Or, yeah, it kind of removes some of their uniqueness in having a 5-man special forces group, but this I think is beneficial. Just, you know, last thing, I guess you could say. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys disagree with me, do you think some of these units did need nerfed? Or do you think that some things need a bit of touch-up? Let me know down in the comments. Personally, I think that things were better the way they used to be. But, you know, that's all up to interpretation. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. This is RC0538 signing off, wishing you a good day.